Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to my 9th episode of my podcast, Raised by Religion, My Exodus to Freedom. If you're listening on Spotify, you heard the intro song with Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero. And the part that I really want to focus on is when she says, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me." That's perfect for this episode because I'm going to talk about my transition from the Church of Christ to a charismatic church to where I'm at now, which if you're going to label what my beliefs are at the moment, you would use the word agnostic. And to me, that means I don't know what's out there or if there's anything out there, and I don't care. So I'm going to talk about how I came to that point. So I want to start out by talking about my transition from the Church of Christ to a charismatic church to agnosticism. It was a process. Even leaving the Church of Christ was a process. There wasn't a defining moment as far as I'm never going back. You know, I never had that moment of this is the end, right? It was a gradual leaving. In 2019, I became very ill. What I now know, I had extreme anxiety, extreme panic attacks. My husband timed it. When I was at my worst, I was having them every 45 minutes. My heart rate would soar up into the 140s, 150s. My blood pressure would be like 160, 170 over 110, 120. And it would last, for a while. And it was so bad. It had gotten to the point to where my hands just continually sweated. And when you're in the shower or a bath for a long time and your fingers get wrinkled at the tips, my fingers stayed wrinkled. And I was convinced that either my thyroid was off, it was my heart, because my sister has a congenital heart condition she was born with, and I never had mine checked. And I should have before this point, but I went to the ER a couple of times thinking I was dying. And I was like, check my heart, check my thyroid. Turns out it was just extreme anxiety. So getting to the very ill part, when we finally figured out what was going on, I got on some medication. Because at that point, I had gone without medication for about 6 months. And actually, I did that with the doctor. I did not, like, all of a sudden stop my meds. It was a gradual thing. Because I wanted to know what it felt like to be me. Well, obviously, I am a walking panic attack without medication. So when we finally figured it out, got me on some medication, I became very ill to the point where couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And I want to explain my symptoms. It's going to take a minute. This may be a longer episode. I just wanted to explain how ill I was at the time. So I have this condition, which I didn't know until about a year ago what it was called, because it's a new diagnosis. But everybody has this flap in their esophagus. I guess you would say it's in your esophagus, that when you burp, it opens and gas is expelled. Well, mine doesn't work. It never has. I maybe have burped 3 times my whole life, like really burped. So what happens is that gas gets trapped. But for the most part, I didn't before this point have very many issues with it. So I started having all of these bubbly sounds and things, and I couldn't let it out. And it got to the point where it was causing heart palpitations, and I mean, I couldn't eat. Everything I ate, it doesn't matter what I ate. I mean, I did lots of research. I didn't know what was wrong. So within a month and a half, I lost 30 pounds. I went from 187 to 157 in a month and a half. I slept maybe 2 hours a night because I would take medicine to help me sleep. But within a couple of hours, this condition would wake me up. So I would pace the floor for hours and hours. And my kitty cat would follow me everywhere. I would lay on the floor. I would roll on the floor. It was the most miserable point in my life. So I finally went to the doctor, and I finally went to a gastro doc, and she did an endoscopy. I had extreme gastritis and esophagitis. So I'm now on stomach medicine for the rest of my life. I say all of that because I did not go to church for a long time. And so I don't think I ever went back. No, I never went back after that. After, of course, when my panic attacks were happening, I didn't go anywhere. I mean, I would be in my house for months at a time. One time I counted 2 months. The worst of it, we would go and leave to go to the grocery store, and I would have a panic attack, and we'd have to turn around and come home. There's not a lot of empathy in the church when it comes to mental illness, especially from certain people that were close to me at the time. And it's all about, with the Church of Christ, it was all about having your ass in the pew every time the doors were open. And if you weren't, oh boy. But nobody really knew how sick I was, except for my husband, because he was here with me the whole time. And so I say all of that because that was my gradual leaving. And there wasn't a lot of support. There wasn't any support, really. No, there wasn't any support when I was sick. Nobody reached out, which is okay. I mean, whatever. So when I got better, actually I was still struggling, and I was going to see my therapist at the time. He was a member of this charismatic church, and I was desperate. So I went to an encounter service, is what they call it. Is when you've never been, and you go, and they laid hands on me. They prayed over me, to no avail, of course, until I got the right meds. And so anyway, I got involved in the charismatic church. I got baptized in it. I know I've gone through that before. And in January of 21, I realized they started getting very political. It was very disappointing. And I decided I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So 2021 was a very, it was a year of transformation for me, because once I got away from the church in general, when I say that, I mean Christianity in general, I started looking at the Bible objectively, and I started, things that had bothered me for years. There's a verse in Jeremiah, and by the way, I just want to say this up front. I will not look up verses for this podcast, and because the Bible is still very triggering for me. I don't open it. I don't read it. Not even for research purposes. I just don't. But there's a verse in Jeremiah. I could guess where it is, but I'm not. But it says, the heart is evil. One thing that was probably one of the first verses that really bothered me, because I started thinking, wait a minute. You created me. So you're saying you created in me an evil heart? No, that doesn't make sense. I started thinking about all of the stories in the Old Testament. The stories that we just I don't say we, but I as a child just accepted as, well, God, it's God. He knows what he's doing. The flood. He wiped out he wiped this, and like I don't believe any of this now, but the Bible stories where this God wipes out the whole world except for 8 people. Now, as you can imagine, there were people on the earth there were children. He drowned children. And then the whole Adam and Eve story. It's right now it's mind-blowing to think about, to think that he cursed humanity for eternity. He tempted Adam and Eve by putting that tree there. And then there's a verse that says, God tempts no man. He did. He did in the very first story of the first 2 humans on the earth. He did. He put a tree there and said, don't touch it. It's like putting a tray of cookies out and saying, don't touch it. So that's another one that bothered me. This might be controversial, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because it's a part of what led me to where I am now. And these things like deep inside always bothered me, but I used the excuse of he's God and he knows what he's doing. Christians love to cherry pick Jesus. They like to say he's the Prince of Peace. Well, it does say he's the Prince of Peace. He loves us. It does say, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And I'm going to get into that too, possibly. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way there before I stop. But there is a couple of verses, a couple of sayings from Jesus that I remember. And one is, I came not to bring peace, but a sword. But then he's the Prince of Peace. There's a contradiction there. Also, I came to separate families. And that was a red flag. All of these things just kept coming to me as I started thinking about them from an objective point of view, an intelligent. I don't want to call Christians stupid. I don't mean that at all. But from a point of view, objective, and looking at it from someone who is not in the church anymore and has no reason to protect these stories in the Bible. I had no reason to be defensive about it because I was finally at a point to where I thought I had critical thinking. It was no longer a blind faith type of thing for me. It was no longer, I accept that because I have faith. It was, I don't accept that because I have intelligence. I have critical thinking. And I know that comes across as, I don't mean to come across as degrading to Christians. We all have the freedom to believe what we want to believe. And on a personal level with people, I do not debate. I do not try to change their beliefs. Now, they try to change mine. There's so much religious talk at work. People coming in talking about the Lord and God and all this stuff. And I listen, sometimes I comment, but I never come from a place of, I'm going to prove you wrong. Because there's no point. I'm not going to change anyone's beliefs. And believe it or not, I don't want to. Because you have that right. And I have that right. I have the right to believe or not to believe what I want to. So on a personal level, I have some of the closest people in my life they consider themselves Christians. I don't talk to them and try to convince them that Christianity is false or that, the God of the Bible is really evil and not good and things like that. I don't try to convince them, and they don't try to convince me to believe what they believe. And they love me unconditionally. They love me. they support me. They empathize with me. So, like I said, I don't mean this as an attack on Christianity. However, I have a voice, and I'm going to tell my story. I'm not trying to be offensive, but some of you who are listening may find it offensive. And I'm not going to apologize for my beliefs either. So I mentioned just a minute ago about the God of the Bible actually being evil. Another red flag for me was Satan. For years it was, you blame. I remember saying, why do we blame God for the bad things that happen? Why don't we blame Satan? And that was good with me for years. That was my thought process. But now, looking at it from an outside point of view, again, God created Satan, and God is omnipotent. He is all-knowing. He knows, according to Scripture and according to Christians, he knows what has happened and what will happen. So he knew, according to the Scriptures and according to Christians, he knew what Satan was going to do. He knew that Adam and Eve were going to do what they did. And that is unacceptable to me. I don't understand it. And it I don't know if I should say it angers me, because I don't, something that I don't believe really happened. It's not going to make me mad. It is what it is. But it just boggles my mind that this God created his nemesis. And now, according to the Scriptures and according to Christians, Satan is having his way with everybody. And some Christians would probably say, or most Christians would say, he's having his way with you right now. That came out weird. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, but God created Satan, and now he's allowing him to deceive and to take people to hell with him, and you're allowing that to happen without intervening. And then, we have freedom of choice. Okay, but so does God. God has a freedom of choice, right? He's all powerful. He's this all powerful being that sees all and knows all. So why wouldn't he do everything in his power to come and convince the world that he is God? And of course I'm going to hear, well, he did. He sent Jesus and blah, blah, blah. That was 2,000 years ago. Where is he now? Where, there's a song, I forgot her name, Maddie Ziegler, I think is her name. If it isn't God, or if it wasn't God. And she says in her song, they called me a sinner when I was a saint, crying in her bedroom, praying depression away. How I have prayed in the past. And yes, sometimes my prayers were answered, quote unquote. But really what happened was life just happened as it was going to happen. As it does. And that's the way I see things now. It may sound kind of cynical, but it's life. There's this trend that I see a lot on Instagram and on TikTok. Toxic positivity is what I call it. And it's because it's not always happy times. It's not always good times. Life can really suck. Life can be really beautiful too, but it can really suck. And it can hurt. And it can be painful. It can be great too. But this toxic positivity says, no matter what's going on in your life, you can be happy. No. If somebody dies that I love, I'm going to be sad. If somebody tries to tries to come at me and lie about me, which has happened recently. It's not even in the church. I'm not even talking about the Church of Christ. In a work situation, somebody lied about me. I'm angry, right? And if I see that person, I'm going to let them know that I'm angry, that they did that. And that it's okay. That is a valid human emotion. Sadness is a valid human emotion, as well as happiness and all the good stuff. But, in Christianity, there's this suppression of, if you're sad, look at all these people who have it worse than you. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Now I feel even worse. Thanks. Something I've always, well, not always, but over the past couple of years, I've said, pain is pain. Pain hurts. A scrape on your arm hurts. A broken knee hurts. A heart attack hurts. It's all pain. And I'm sorry I'm getting loud. I'm very passionate about this because I was suppressed for so long. Don't be angry. Don't be sad because you've got it so good. Even though I wanted to die for years, So I do not suppress anymore. Sometimes I overexpress. Well, no, I don't think I do. I think that there is still this programming in me that still feels shame for feeling certain things. And I catch myself now. Sometimes I don't, but I catch myself now judging my feelings. Here's another thing that I say that over the past couple of years that I've learned personally. Don't judge your feelings, right? Don't judge yourself for feeling angry. Don't judge yourself for feeling sad or feeling depressed or feeling hopeless. Just feel the feelings. Deal with them however you can. I deal with mine through therapy, through EMDR, eye movement desensitization. Let me start over. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. That's my therapy. I go every 2 weeks. That's how I deal. Before that, I dealt with it with alcohol and drugs. That's really not dealing, actually. That is covering it up. But it's still there when you get sober. So now I'm actually in a healing process. And I think I still have that programming that tells me, oh, you just went off on a tangent, of anger, or, you're sad. I there's sometimes when I do get discouraged about my life and things that happen, and I think, but I've got this wonderful marriage to a man that just adores me and loves me unconditionally, and I do the same for him, and I have all of these friends and fans. Guess what? That doesn't mean you can't be sad. That doesn't mean you can't be disappointed. That doesn't mean that you can't be angry and feel some of these negative emotions. Well, we label them as negative. So I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but that's another reason why I walked away from Christianity, religion as a whole. I walked away from it because of the suppression, because of the mind control, trying to control how you think, how you live. Everybody's got to know your business. Why weren't you at church? What's going on? Oh, you're divorced. Well, we've got to make sure it's scriptural because, that's our business. No, it's not. Not your business. My life and my choices aren't your business unless I make it your business. So, anyway, that is how I came to the point that I am now. And I'm not ashamed of it. Do I go and announce it to the world? No, I live in the Bible Belt. I'm afraid to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt or a rainbow shirt because people around here, a lot of them be angry. They've got those FJB stickers and things. They're just so mad. So, no. Anyway, that's another tangent. Sorry, didn't mean to get political. I'm not on either side. I'm just for human rights. Everybody deserves their basic human rights, no matter what they choose to do with their lives. So, thank you for listening. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can. I'm on TikTok more than anything because I love TikTok. I've said that before. Is a way that I express myself. It is Tawanda379. That's TAWANDA 379. On Instagram, it's one phrase. It's Karen's So Unusual, which is KARENSSOUNUSUAL. I think that's what it is. Just look me up, Karen Montgomery, and look me up on Facebook if you'd like, Karen Montgomery. And as I try to say in all of my episodes, if you are in a situation where you're either in the Church of Christ and you want to get out but you're scared, or you're in another kind of oppressive religion, there are so many resources out there on Facebook. There are private groups where you can go and talk to other people who have been where you have been. There is a Reddit community that you could be anonymous in that community and talk to other people about their experiences and get ideas for your current situation. There's a line in a song by Ashes Divide, and it's called The Prey, Prey, and he says, "Don't be afraid of their excommunication. You will survive." I didn't think I would survive leaving the Church of Christ. I really didn't. I didn't think I would ever have the strength to get away. It took time, but I did, and I'm so happy on the other side. And I feel a sense of freedom, the greatest sense of freedom that I've ever felt. And it's not a freedom to be a bad person, I'm not even going to go there. So anyway, again, I thank you for listening. And like I said, reach out if you'd like to talk. We'll chat. I will keep everything confidential. I don't make anybody else's business that they tell me anyone else's business. Did that make sense? It'll be kept between us. So, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Today is Sunday. I have been doing nothing but working on my podcast. Oh, and another thing. I do have a YouTube channel. If you search Raised by Religion, you'll find the channel. I've only got the trailer up right now, but hopefully by the end of the day, I will have all of my episodes uploaded to YouTube. I believe my podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts. I went through all the steps, but I'm not sure that it actually posted to Apple, because I was going to get on there and check it on the Apple Podcasts before I got on here, but I forgot. So I'm going to go make sure it's up on there. Go check it out, because I've had a couple of people reach out and say that they can't, that they don't have Spotify, or, they don't have a way to listen. So I'm trying to make it available on more and more platforms. So anyway, again, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.